Hello and welcome to episode 45 of Coffee Talk. 45. That seems crazy. I say it every time. We appreciate you joining me.
45.
My name is Trevor Hooth, and of course, Nate Kosher is with me. Nate's got a fun new background. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Make sure to check us out on YouTube so you can see it. Nate, what's our YouTube channel?
Well, it is Coffee Talk PLP, I believe.
There you
You
go.
or
Check it out
find
so you can
us
check out the sharp new background.
or just find us on the main picture list feed as
Mhm.
well. You could find us there too. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice and clean.
Yeah, so don't just listen to the podcast with your ears. See the background of what Nate's got going on, and see the shiny new mic that I just got. It's like lighting up. It's awesome. I love it so far. But
Very exciting things
we're
tonight.
about 60 seconds into the new mic, so we'll see how it actually goes. But this is not a background and microphone podcast as much as it seems like it might be. Uh, we have baseball to talk about. First thing on the list, what's brewing. We're going to jump into the news, and the top thing in the news that we have right now. The Reds won by a football score of 24-2. They did have a safety scored against them, but uh, they did score 24 and 7 RBIs from Noel Marte, who before this was hitting like 2 or something. So obviously he had a pretty good game.
Yeah, it seems like he woke up. That's probably the boost he needed. I remember talking about him last year. Remember we talked about him because he was suspended, then he was hurt? Was that the story? Or he was hurt and suspended, or he finally came back, I think, toward the end of the year, but someone you may have forgotten about.
Yeah, he was suspended. He came back and just didn't play very well. I mean, and then he hadn't been hitting that well so far this year, but obviously a pretty good game in that one. Everybody seems like they had a good game offensively if you were wearing a Reds uniform.
Yes. I saw also bad for the Orioles, their worst loss since 2007,
Mhm.
and they are struggling right now with their pitching. Uh, Charlie Morton was the pitcher yesterday. He only lasted 2 innings, and yeah, they had to use position players at the end, and they're a few games above or a few games below 500. So things are not going as they expected in Baltimore.
No, well, I mean, I don't think anybody expected their pitching to be good. We talk about a lot how they
We
need
did.
pitching, but yeah, things not going great there. I mean, it's early on. That's the thing is we can still use the "it's early" cliche with a lot of stuff that's happening. Uh, Still weird stuff happens. I mean, I was just looking at some things, and Jazz Chisholm's hitting 161 but has 7 home runs. Mike Trout is hitting 184 but has 8 home runs. Like, just odd stuff still when you look at stats and how things are going.
Also yesterday, Reds catcher Austin Wynns had 6 hits. So
Yes.
that
Superstar catcher Austin Wynns had 6 hits.
you don't need to rush out and add him.
Definitely not their backup catcher Austin Wynns had 6 hits.
But game of his lifetime. Yeah, there is some funny stuff happening. Um, Struggling people as well, who
Yeah.
sooner or later you have to start to get worried about or try to buy low.
Okay, we were going to do this conversation later, but since you brought up how the Orioles are struggling with their pitching, do you know who's not struggling with their pitching despite having most of their pitching rotation injured already? That's the Milwaukee Brewers. And the reason that this is noteworthy is because they obviously have Freddie Peralta, and they've gotten fantastic outings from Chad Patrick. They got fantastic outings from Quinn Priester after trading for him.
Mm-hmm.
They got a really good outing from Logan Henderson. Logan Henderson has already been sent back down and optioned back down. He was up with the big club, sat the bench for like a week, got one start, and now he's going to head back to AAA because Tobias Myers is coming back. But following Tobias Myers shortly is going to be Brandon Woodruff. And then
Yep.
there's going to be Aaron Savali. And then there's going to be Nestor Cortez. So they've gotten these really good performances from pitchers, consistently good, not just one start. This has been a few starts that these pitchers are doing well, but there's not going to be room for all of them. And I think that's the talking point here. They did bring up Craig Yoho too, which is a different talking point, but also fun because he has the demon changeup. but they are going to have it's just an unstable environment if you're for as a fantasy manager have Milwaukee Brewers pitching and it's not and they're not named Freddie Peralta. It's just kind of an unstable environment right now.
Yeah, and who they don't even have at all this year is Robert Gasser, who
Hmm.
looked good in a short run last year before he was hurt. So that's another guy he probably would have been penciled in, and now he's not. Um,
Mizurowski is also in AAA.
yeah,
I mean, granted,
looming potentially.
looming is a potentially looming. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah,
He still has no idea where the ball's going, but he hasn't been terrible in the outings that I've seen.
I think the Brewers obviously it's a good problem to have. Their bullpen, on the other hand, hasn't done as well, and their old bullpen star is not doing well either in New York. Devin Williams, you see, he's been struggling a bit. But man, when he was with the Brewers, he was locked down. But it's funny how teams change. If you can get good starters and a good bullpen at the same time, good things happen, obviously. But it's hard to make that happen. It sounds simple, but it's hard to make that happen.
Somebody said Devin Williams was traded to the Yankees, got them to repeal their facial hair policy, and then started losing games for him, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, he was just an inside spy, maybe for the Brewers.
But the reliever thing is a whole other issue, right? And the Brewers could have Mizurowski join the bullpen. They could eventually maybe have Henderson do it. They're hoping that Craig Yoho becomes a good presence in the back end of their bullpen. Trevor Megill has had his issues. He only has 2 saves, I think, to this point in the year. But there is a larger relief pitcher issue. Emmanuel Clase does not look like Emmanuel Clase. He had a string of, I think, 3 straight saves where he didn't give up a run, but they made him pitch another game, and that didn't continue. You mentioned Devin Williams is struggling. Um, and there are other top end relievers who just aren't looking as good. Griffin Jacks does not look as good as Griffin Jacks once looked. It's just kind of relievers are fickle, and you understand that. But
They
these
are.
dominant relievers, these guys who have been reliable for the last couple of years, aren't right now.
Oh, another one, David Bednar, Pirates closer last few seasons. He was sent down. He's back now, but he really struggled.
Well, and yeah, there's another one, right? Because Colin Holderman's going to be coming back soon too. So now you have Bednar, Holderman, who maybe slot in to the leverage spots. Dennis Santana's been holding it down, but
mhm.
just instability, man.
Closers, yeah, it's so hard to figure closers out. And I was thinking about this earlier today. We're talking about closers, and I came up with 2 analogies. They're sort of like cats in that they have 9 lives, and or zombies because they they're never quite dead. Like they keep going to new teams if they've had some success, like a Aroldis Chapman or
Mm-hmm.
Kenley Jansen, even Craig Kimbrell. I don't know if he's still around. When he was still
He
around,
is in the Atlanta organization. I don't know if he's up with Atlanta, but he was. The last outing I had seen him throw was in, I think, Double A, and he struck out 4 in like 1 1/3 inning. So all 4 guys he faced, he struck out.
so obviously these guys have had success, but there's times where they're doing terrible and they kind of crawl back, have some more
Mhm.
success. I mean, those names I mentioned, I mean, those guys are potential Hall of Famers, but it's so hard to market what's going to happen with the relievers. There's unknown guys every year that come out of nowhere who you could have drafted in the last round and end up putting together saves. And so you just never know. And now like Bednar, he could be good later in the season. You never know. Get on a hot streak. Um, but someone like Luke Jackson this year, he has 6 saves for Texas. No one
Mhm.
probably had him penciled in. Um, so
Tommy Conley is the leading save getter for the Detroit Tigers right now, just as everyone predicted.
exactly, yeah. So it's so weird to try to figure this stuff out. So that's why I would never draft a reliever very high unless before this season, Class A, someone at that level who's a lockdown, but now even he is struggling. So um, Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues. Robert Suarez is the MLB leader in saves, if you're wondering. He has been good. 0 ERA and 9 saves for the Padres.
So, who is your number one closer in baseball right now, or number one reliever? Let's say saves holds league. Who's your number one reliever right now?
That's a good question.
I would say Mason Miller. I mean, just
Yeah,
from the standpoint of he's going to get you a lot of strikeouts, and he's been consistent so far, and we know Mason Miller's good. Mason Miller's got to be my top reliever.
yeah, you're right. He has been outstanding. Someone that has bounced back potentially is Josh Hader.
Mm-hmm.
He has looked great. Let's see, 0.82 ERA, 0.64 WHIP. If he can get back to that level, there's another zombie reliever back from struggles. And at one point, I would say he was the top reliever. But Mason Miller, the stuff he's shown, the potential that he has, yeah, I would agree. He's probably up there. I was trying to think of a top setup man who is not a closer.
Tony Santillan.
No, there we go.
He's been really
Yeah,
good this year.
he has been good.
Brian King has been really good this year with the Astros. These are guys who will get you holds, not saves. Um, and then there's a couple guys. It's hard to say this because they aren't right now. I want to talk about Daniel Palencia with the Cubs because right now Daniel Palencia is not going to get you holds and saves. He's pitched 4 innings and has 0 saves or holds at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not looking like he at right now is a back end arm for the Cubs bullpen, but he has nasty stuff, like really good stuff. And so I am really interested to see if he grows into it anytime soon because he throws 100. He has a nasty slider. The command is the big question with him, but he's looked so good so far this year. He had 1 inning where he threw 10 pitches, struck out 2, and they were all fastballs. And I think 8 of the 10 pitches were 100 miles an hour or higher. Like he just has this stuff that is crazy when he can command it. So that's just somebody that I wanted to give a quick shout out to. I mean, just as a spec ad, this is a deep, deep, deep dynasty league. But I
Mm-hmm.
added Luis May from the Reds because he recorded a 102-mile-an-hour strikeout recently, and he has big dominating stuff. He also walks people at an incredibly high rate. But
Wow.
I mean, that big stuff upside, that's kind of what you're looking for if you're looking to invest in relievers.
Yeah.
You know who else? I mean, Hayden Birdsong. I just got to say, Hayden Birdsong. He is going to make a really good starter one day, but he's not a starter right now. Landon Root beat him out for that 5th starter spot in San Francisco. He has 3 holds, but he's pitching multiple innings at a time. He's got 10 innings on the year, 9 strikeouts, has a 1.8 ERA until his most recent outing. I think it was at a 0. He hadn't given up a run. His stuff is just so good. And you got to think eventually he stretches out to cover starting rotation needs. They mentioned that they want him to be able to do that. So these are not guys who you're relying on necessarily, but if you
No,
are really hurting for
someone you could.
relievers or even ratios, um, again, super deep league. I also picked up Mason Fluharty from the Blue Jays, who has good stuff and may grow into a back end role. Probably not this year, and this isn't a dynasty podcast, so I need to shut my mouth. But these are just some names that have crossed
These,
my mind lately.
yeah, and these are guys that would be available in nearly all
Mm-hmm.
leagues. For what it's worth, I did pull up Rick Graham's latest hold up article where he ranks every Thursday. It's the top 100 relievers for holds, just specifically holds. Number 1 on the list, Jeremiah Estrada with the Padres, Griffin Jacks, Cade Smith, Jason Adam, Luke Weaver, Mason Montgomery. There's your top list. But then he also has risers and fallers. So Louis Varland with the Twins, another person they've tried to be a starter, but now has gotten some reliever action. He jumped up 15 in the standings, and then where was the other one I wanted to mention? There it is. Paul Sewald. So
Ah,
with Class
former
A,
Mariner.
yes, with Class A struggles, he could maybe get some save chances, but he jumped up 24 spots on the holds rankings here. So these are little small changes that could slightly help your team, and
Hmm.
maybe you're thinking potential the ads could be high rewards down the road. But
Right now, these
yeah,
are
these
watch list guys, probably not
basically,
Luis
yeah,
May, not probably Mason Fluharty, even unless your league is super deep on relievers. But like Palencia is a guy that I would definitely be watching. Birdsong is a guy I would definitely pick up if he's available. He may not be, probably wouldn't be. He had a lot of helium, but these are definitely guys that you should be picking up. The guys you mentioned, pick up if they're available.
yes,
Aside of maybe Seawald.
yeah. I don't think. I mean, he's not that exciting, and he has never been able to throw fast. Um, but in Rick's article here, he says he's still getting a lot of whiffs with his sweeper, and he's having a strong year this season. So I think with Class A's struggles, he's saying potentially could fall into some save chances too. But yeah, he will not blow
Speaking,
you away.
he will not. Speaking of
No.
guys who are probably not available in your leagues, we got to talk about a Diamondback. Corbin Carroll has been on fire lately and doing things that Corbin Carroll does.
Yes, I am so happy that this is how Corbin Carroll's third season is going. Last year, sort of the sophomore slump, picked it up in the second half. I know, Trevor, in the off season, we talked about how worried should we be? Should we be worried about Corbin Carroll? Where is he gonna, end up? And we weren't worried about him, for the record. We
Never
were
worry
not
about
worried.
him.
No. And he is such a talented player and a good, just a baseball. He's a
Can do a
baseball
lot.
guy. Yeah. He's a hard worker. He can do anything on the field, but he is been a machine this season. And I saw this stat I had to write down. Um, Over the weekend on Saturday, he hit his 7th home run of the season. He already has a grand slam. He's all the numbers are amazing, but in 2024, he did not hit his 7th home run until July 27th. So if you
Tied with the
invested
likes
in
of Tommy Edmond with 7 home runs.
yes, Tommy Edmonds, surprisingly. Um, yeah, okay. So Carroll's hitting 323, 19 ribbies, 4 steals. He is having a monster season. So if you've invested in Carroll again, good for you.
Mhm.
Like I said, I was never worried. He's too good to not be, not figure things out. But he kind of powers the Diamondbacks offense. He's been leading off, and I think he's probably if you stop the season right now, top 5 MVP names thus far this season, I would
Probably
say.
should be in any given year if you play the full season. I mean, he's
Yeah,
just so good and he does a
he's
lot. I mean, there's not much
he's a
else to
stud.
say about it.
No.
Um, Now, before we go to break, Nate, I do want to bring up another Diamondback player real quick because after break, we are going to talk about some of the most recent prospect call ups because there's been a lot of them and several of them matter. A lot of them matter and a lot of them are really fun. So we want to get into that. But speaking of Diamondbacks and prospects and, well, not called up, have you seen the insane hot streak that Jordan Lawler has been on over the last week or so?
Yes, I have another thing that makes me very happy. We've talked about him. He's probably one of our most talked about players in the history of our podcast here.
It's because we have a
Um,
Diamondbacks fan and a guy who believes in Jordan Lawler now.
yeah,
The question is, do you believe in Jordan Lawler to be a future Diamondback, or is he going to be moved for something else? Because where do you put him?
that's the problem. Yeah, so he's been on an absolute tear. I think he's right on the verge now, probably of getting called up. But
Has to be.
he, yeah, he's forcing the issue. Cattell Marte's hurt, but Lawler hasn't played second. Um, Geraldo
Marte's coming back
Perdomo,
soon too.
yeah, he's coming back. Perdomo is at short. We've talked about him before, and he's actually having a great season. better than he's ever
Earning that
shown. And
extension
then
money.
exactly, and Suarez is at third, and he's not going to take his spot. So I don't honestly know. It's a good problem to have, but they're going to have to figure it out,
I
or
mean, eventually, do you just boot McCarthy and
make a
let Lawler
change.
try to timeshare in center field?
Yeah,
The Tigers are trying Javi Baez in center field, so why not Lawler?
McCarthy has been not great, and maybe he could develop Lawler, that is, into just kind of a play anywhere. We got to get him in the
Super
lineup.
util, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I would think he's gonna come up soon. Maybe he would just DH because he's been so hot. I don't know. Um, but yeah, a good problem to have.
It is. And based on the rules of podcasting, there is a very solid chance that in between the time that Nate and I record this podcast on Monday night and when it releases on Tuesday afternoon, that Jordan Lawler will be up with the Diamondbacks, or news that Jordan Lawler is coming will have been released. That's just how podcasting works.
Yep, you're right.
All
That's
right, Nate,
probably
we're
gonna
going to take a
happen.
quick time out. When we come back, we are going to talk prospects who actually have the call up already and who have been playing Major League Baseball. You love to see it. But right now, we are going to take a quick time out. You are listening to Coffee Talk, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. And welcome back to Coffee Talk on the Pitcher List Podcast Network. My name is Trevor Hooth. I appreciate you joining me. And of course, I am with Nate Kosher. He appreciates you joining him as well. You're joining us
That's
together
right.
because that's what Coffee Talk is. I think I'm in the mode where I'm used to First Pitch Podcast where it's just me. So I apologize for that. But there are two of us. And make sure
That
to listen to
is
First Pitch Podcast on the weekends because I host it. So
by yourself, but
by
just you.
myself. Correct. Yes. And on the days I don't host it, friend of the podcast, Jake Crumpler, is hosting it. He takes the midweek duty, or the duties throughout the week. Just fun fact about that. Anyway, prospects. There's been a lot of them. There's been a lot of fun ones. We mentioned Logan Henderson. He came up and had a fantastic game, and then is now headed back to Nashville because they wanted to make room for Craig Yoho. So I guess we start with Craig Yoho. It's worked seamlessly. We've been talking about relievers. Nate, are you interested in Craig Yoho in redraft leagues?
Yeah, I am interested. Because of sort of the opposite discussion of Paul Sewald. Just because he has some nasty stuff, including a nasty changeup. And last year, he struck out 101 batters in 57 and 2/3 innings in the minor. That was in the
Which is
minors,
pretty
but
good.
yes,
It's solid.
that's pretty good. I would take that
Solid, but
on
not
my team.
spectacular.
This year, though, he hasn't allowed any runs, so he's locked in. I am definitely interested in him. Someone like this who comes up right away, they probably are not going to throw him into the highest leverage spots, but I could see him gaining those spots as the season progresses and getting maybe even saves. But just because the stuff is so nasty, the strikeout potential is there. I would definitely think about adding him. I like to keep. We've talked about this before. Keep a couple of roster spots just for prospects or people who are hot for a couple weeks. I think it'd be worth picking him up for one of those people spots. Maybe drop someone to see what he can do. Also, depending on how your league is set up. But yes, that's an exciting one.
All right, Nate, quick math time. We'll see. This is your random pop-up question that I
Oh,
came up
yep.
with while you were talking. I'm a
Always
dinosaur that
happens.
still uses I'm a dinosaur that still uses K per nine more than I do strikeout percentage for pitchers. For
Okay.
hitters, it's always strikeout percentage, but I like K per nine. So 101 strikeouts in 57.2 innings. What do you think that K per nine was? How quick can you do math?
Well,
How good is your mental math?
it's almost 20 because of if I round 150 at 17, 18.
All right, all right. 15.76. I mean,
Okay.
not bad for mental math, but you were a little high.
I was a little high.
Do you want to throw a guess at the strikeout percentage now?
Ooh, good question. What was it again? What did you say again? For the innings
What?
and strikeouts?
Oh, it was
even though I just read it. Now I closed my
101
tab.
strikeouts in 57.2 innings.
So, oh boy. 25%?
Ooh, very not close. 42.4%, I believe it
Holy
was.
cow. No,
Yeah,
oh, that's
42.4%.
no, that's crazy. I way undershot
Bonkers.
that.
Yeah, bonkers. If you
Jeez,
see a hitter striking out that many times, you're sprinting the opposite direction.
that's crazy. Wow.
Right? Right? All right, so
So,
that's
so
Craig Yoho.
you feel good about picking up Yoho
I
as
mean, yeah,
well?
look, when's the last time you saw a Brewers reliever who had a demon changeup like this?
Fair
Right
enough.
now, he's currently not doing well for the Yankees, but that's beside the point. He did well for the
Yes.
Brewers. So, yeah, I'm kind of interested because they definitely, I mean, especially if it's shades of what you and your fan base knows, I feel like that's even more reason to throw him into a high leverage role sooner than later.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
More prospect call ups. I'm going to start with my favorite of the bunch. Doesn't mean they're the best player. I'm going to start with my favorite of the bunch, and then Nate, you could bring up the next one, but I have to
Sure.
make sure that early on we talk about Edgar Caro. I love Edgar Caro. I feel like I've talked about that on this podcast before. I feel like I've talked about it on every podcast
You
I've ever
have.
been on.
You definitely have.
And I think I probably should get it tattooed on my forehead. I am a huge Edgar Caro fan for fantasy baseball purposes. Even with the potential future timeshare that he has with Kyle Teal, which is looming,
Mm-hmm.
right now he doesn't have that, even though they kind of are making that happen with Matt Tice. But Edgar Caro can hit the baseball, and I am super excited to see him called up. He already has a couple doubles to his name, and he's been doing great so far.
Yeah, I texted you this over the weekend or last week, whenever the decision was made. I was surprised he got the first chance over Teal. Teal is, I think, 2 years older, and arguably higher on some lists, I think, of catching prospects.
I
But
think better defensively, but he's not
right,
hitting.
and well, yes, and in the real life, defense as catcher is a big part of it and matters. Fantasy, we don't care about that, obviously. But yes, you mentioned his struggles, and so Caro it is. Um, he, I was looking at this morning. He pinch hit, so he had his first game. He didn't have a hit. Then he had two doubles the next two games. His third game, he came in a pinch hit against the Red Sox toward the end of the game. 2 RBI single, put the White Sox ahead, and they actually won the game. So already a clutch performance in his young career.
Impact.
And as we've talked about with the White Sox, someone who's a young player who's good, is going to have a long leash, could take the starting job very easily in Chicago. And I think at this point, you're probably, if you're a two-catcher league and if one of your catchers isn't doing so hot, I'd consider picking him up right now. Otherwise, watch how he does if your catchers are adequate. But I think he's definitely on a two-catcher league radar. Could work his way up from there.
He's hitting cleanup. He hit cleanup in the game, the Monday night game. He went 0 for 4 with a strikeout and an RBI, but he hit cleanup. Like he's going to be in a significant lineup spot, is my point, for the White Sox. For as long a leash as they give him, which again we think is going to be pretty long.
Yep.
So I anticipate him being a very good catcher, and I would argue that if you're in a two catcher league, unless you have two of the top catchers, I'd go for
Just
it.
do it now.
I mean, at least hold him if you have the space on your bench. Like I think there's something there. I have now. Granted, again, this is a 30-team league. It gets way too deep, and there's no depth anywhere for anybody. But I have him in a util spot because I have Yanir Diaz, who hasn't been playing well. But now I'm excited about my catcher position again. Especially if you have a Yanir Diaz who's struggling, this might be
Yes.
a guy who you can, if you have, again, you have to have the bench space because you're not going to drop Yanni or Diaz. You're probably not going to sell him because you won't get the ROI that you want. But if you have the bench space, you can probably use a guy like Caro to bridge the gap until Yanir Diaz figures it out because nothing in Yanir Diaz's batting profile says
That's a
that
good point.
he's struggling in any major way. but I do think that there is, and I'm just beating the drum, and I might be early, and you might say, Trevor, you're an idiot because, well, frankly, I am sometimes. You talk about Jeremiah Estrada. I decided not to keep him, and instead I kept Luis Morejo, a first base prospect from the Guardians. Not very smart. I make dumb decisions, but
It's
I
hard.
believe in Edgar Caro.
Yes, and you've been saying it so far. He's showing it, and you're right. The catcher position. I mean, depending on your bench and utility spots and all that, it's it's a position where if you have a difference maker, it's worth making an early call
Mhm.
because the talent pool is typically thin, strong names at the top, and then it's a wasteland. So if there's someone who has potential, is young and exciting, you'd want to plug them in right away.
And if you're waiting on Ivan Herrera to come back, I mean, you probably have a stopgap in there anyway, and I think that Edgar Caro is better than that stopgap.
Exact. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Yeah, I had Jake Rogers hurt, and so I was just looking for any other catcher who even started some games,
Mhm.
and he's going to be better than that scenario. So
Mhm.
yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, your turn. What prospect would you like to talk about, Nate?
Well, I know we have quite a list here, but I'm going to talk about someone who was already debuted last year and was debuted to much fanfare this year, but I think he maybe finally is figuring some things out, and that's Dylan Cruz. Um,
Ah.
big name, not a recent call up, but of note, Trevor, he finally had a good game, maybe the boost that he needed, which was a 2 home run game in one. Let's see, it was a win on Saturday. He went 3 for 5 with 2 home runs, a double, 4 RBIs, and 4 runs scored. Uh, Huge game, and maybe that's what he needed to turn it around. I think he was doing poorly enough. He probably was looking at going back to the minors, and it could still happen. I mean, he's really struggled. I think we thought he might be the rookie of the year, and in fantasy circles, people expected big things. Maybe this is what he needed. So it's great to see. I want him to continue doing well. So maybe he's figured something out. I hope
To
so.
illustrate how poor his start was, he is 8 for his last 27 with 2 home runs and 3 steals. He's hitting 296 over his last 7 games. And on the season, he's hitting 186.
Yeah, and to play devil's advocate, the 2 home run game was at Coors, which will help any hitter.
So
But
Nate's saying drop Dylan Cruz because he can't hit outside of Coors. That's what I'm hearing.
that's yeah. If you're in my league, you should drop him immediately.
No,
Uh,
look, prospect development is not linear. That is something that gets said a lot. That's something that I will say a lot. Dylan Cruz has a ton of baseball talent. There was a time right after Dylan Cruz got drafted and started playing professionally that he had a big slump, and everybody was like, but Dylan Cruz must not be very good. That's a real thing that happened quite a bit early on in his professional career. And then he started to become Dylan Cruz again. I mean, this guy was a thought to be consensus top pick,
mhm.
which obviously he wasn't 1-1 in his draft class, but that was kind of the thought all year that he was at LSU and then Paul Skeens. But the point is he has a ton of talent. And this is not a Spencer Torkelson. He gets up, was a first overall pick, top of a draft class, and it doesn't do very well. Dylan Cruz didn't have some of the struggles that Spencer Torkelson did going through the minor leagues. The Nationals didn't necessarily rush Dylan Cruz through the minor leagues like Spencer Torkelson was. So you're talking about a guy with oodles of talent, oodles and
Mhm.
oodles of it. If you like the term oodles as a measurement tool, he has oodles of talent, and I think it's just a matter of him figuring it out, catching fire, and they're going to give him time to do that. But again, if he stops hitting, they may send him back down just for a little breather. But I'm not worried about Dylan Cruz
No.
at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. Even to the struggles till now, even if he had to be sent down again, I wouldn't have given up on him. But of note, he may be turning a corner. Hopefully, we shall see.
Mm-hmm. All right, next prospect. I'm going to choose, going off script, by the way, fun fact,
Oh,
because
okay.
we forgot about one, and this is my other favorite of the prospects that got called up, and this one might have more impact than Caro, and that is Minnesota Twins Luke Keeschall.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, how did we
I
forget
forgot
to put
about
him
that
on
too.
our script, Nate? He is 333 so far, 4 hits in 12 at bats, and has a steal. His first game, I think he got a steal and a hit, but I mean, dude's good. Dude rakes, dude can steal. Like, he's going to be a fantasy darling at second base, I think. And I'm by fantasy darling, I mean like 2020 potential as a second baseman.
Yeah, I forgot about him too. This was what, the end of last week, maybe.
Hmm.
He got called up, and the Twins have been terrible thus far. Not very exciting. So they need some excitement, and I
They
think
got it.
that yeah, he could be fulfilling that.
Impact fantasy second baseman in the long run.
Yes, I agree. I Do you think he's available in leagues, or people had drafted
No
him?
shot. I
Okay,
don't know
yeah.
about drafted, but at this point, waivers have run and he's probably not available. But if he is, run, do not walk to your free agent market and press the add button.
Yes, I agree. I had completely forgot about that
Hmm.
with the flurry the last 2 days. But yeah, I think he I think he'll also get a long leash and a chance with the Twins. They've had some problems, infielders, particularly finding people that can fill the spots. They did have, what's his name, Julian there, Edward Julian, who
Hmm.
was good 2 years ago, really bad last year, okay this year, but they've had trouble with third base, first base. So he's going to get some run, is my point, and I would, yeah, worth
Yeah,
adding.
absolutely. All right. Nate, do you want to pick the next one?
Yes, I do. I'm going to go another catcher, Trevor. Someone I liked
What?
yeah, can you believe it? Someone I liked coming into the season because he, I thought maybe he was going to make the big league squad. He did not until now.
PPI
That's
deadline matters.
true. Very good point. Augustine Ramirez with the Marlins. Um, I think that coming into the season, the Marlins, I don't remember their starting catcher, but it was no one great, and
Nick
he didn't.
Fortes.
Thank you. I couldn't remember who it was,
I have to
but
double check if even
anyways,
I have that right, but yeah.
yeah, that does sound right. Um, he
Liam
didn't have
Hicks also.
he he didn't have to play that well to get a spot, right?
Mhm.
And another guy who pretty solid hitter, was traded to the Marlins from the Yankees, as I think we've talked about him last year,
Jazz
but
Chisholm trade.
there we go. Potentially could slot in at first base eventually. He's not great defensively at catcher, but his main calling card would be his power. So I think some home run potential. I
Hmm.
don't think he's quite as good uh, as Carroll, who who we were just talking about. I mean, he's close, but I think he's a little bit below that. It's someone I'm still excited about. It's fun because he's one of the top catcher names. I want to say maybe he was right outside of the top 100 when MLB released their list this season, or he was close, but definitely some pop. I think
Hmm.
some potential, good playing time opportunity. So same things you said about Caro, except I don't think he's not quite as good. That's my opinion. He could
Yeah,
end up being as good, but I don't think he's as good of a hitter.
I think he'll have more power than Caro. I think
Yeah,
what
that's
you're
the thing.
deciding between is hitting ability and power because Caro for as good as he is, I don't think he's going to be a huge, powerful catcher. I think Ramirez could be. But as you mentioned, not great defender. Um, we'll see how he does in his debut. I also honestly am starting to prefer a different Marlins catching prospect long term, and that's Joe Mack. But Joe Mack is in Double A right now, so that's a different conversation for another time, not a redraft podcast.
Not
There are a
coffee talk
few
yet.
more prospects we're going to talk about. This is the prospect episode, and I love it. But first, we are going to take a quick timeout. We will be right back with more Coffee Talk. Of course, Coffee Talk is part of the Pitcherless Podcast Network. And welcome back to episode 45 of Coffee Talk. My name is Trevor Hooth. Nate Kosher's with me. We've been talking a lot of prospects today, right up my alley. I love it. I dig it. And I promise I didn't plan it, although I'm not upset by it. Some
We
more
can't
prospects.
control Major League front offices, Trevor.
Look, the PPI deadline passed, which means we're getting a lot of prospects. Whether they wait a
Yeah.
day or a few days after, we kind of get it, right? The PPI deadline is a service time manipulation deadline for those who are unaware. But anyway,
Yeah.
there are a lot to talk about. I think one that I want to talk about that, again, was not on the list before about 5 minutes ago, because we were talking about guys who are going to get extended run. Ben Williamson with the Mariners, rather.
Mariners, yes.
And also Caleb Durbin with the Brewers. Both of them are going to be everyday third baseman for a while. They bring you different things. Durbin, a lot of people think long run is a bench piece. He got some speed, though, which is pretty nice. Williamson, I think we did talk about him when he got called up, but he's been doing pretty
Yes.
okay. I mean, he has not looked lost at the plate, and he fielded a 120-mile-an-hour grounder at third base from Vlad Guerrero Jr. So, like, he's going to get some run. He's got a good enough glove to figure it out. But anyway, a couple guys I want to talk about because Ben Williamson's been doing some okay things for one of my teams. Another guy who's third base eligible that just got called up the day we were recording this. Tigers, got to bring it up. Jace Young.
Oh, I did not hear that.
Yeah,
I had not heard that.
Yeah, Jace Young is coming back up. They sent Ryan Creedler down because why would you keep him? He can't hit. But they brought Jace Young back up. Young has been fantastic in terms of his contact and just hitting ability so far. Still striking out like 26% of the time. Also walking at an insane rate early in the year, which is something that he's good at. But the contact and swing decisions, I think, are what have improved for him. So we'll see how that plays out at the major league level. If you are in an average league, I don't think Jace Young is for you. If you are in an OBP league, I think Jace Young is for you.
Yeah, I mean that's where some of these young players are at, where they could also accumulate home runs or steals, or home runs and steals, but they're not going to hit for a great average. So sometimes you have to take the good with the bad, and know you might end up with a 240, 250s, but just hope they can contribute in other places.
Yeah, I think Young was like 230s in AAA, but he was hitting really well and was hitting with solid power. So I don't know. Again, it's a 22.7% walk rate in his first 88 plate appearances. He's hitting 239 with 3 home runs. So he's slashing 239, 409, 463. If you are in an OBP league, Jace Young is for you.
Yes. And I think it's possible to be in OBP league and not average. You might have both, but you could also not have average. Right? It's
Usually
possible.
I feel like
Is
the
it one
leagues
or
I've
the
been in,
other?
usually it's one or the other. I do have a league that's both, which is why people keep trying to pry Stephen Kwan away from me, and it's just never going to happen, ever. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I think about it, and I could get good value, but it's just never going to happen.
He's probably the top OBP league all-star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We have 2 prospects left to talk about. One of them is potentially the most divisive call-up that I have seen in terms of the conversations happening about it. And then the other one is the least divisive call-up that I have seen based on the conversations happening about it online. So let's start with the boring one. And by boring, I mean, like, everybody thinks it's
Everyone
awesome and there's
agrees.
no
Yes.
debate about it.
I know where this is going.
In terms of the player, not boring, very fun, something we've been waiting on. The Athletics are officially bringing up Nick Kurtz. That's all
Your
I'm going to
guy.
say.
Your guy.
You got to love it. You got to love it.
You have been talking about him. Here's a Jordan Lawler situation where he was playing so good they had to call him up, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll figure out where he's going to play, but he was tearing up AAA hitting, and
couldn't keep him down.
Yeah, no. In the course of a year, basically before a year, 2024 draft pick, here he is in the majors, less than a calendar year later. So
Well,
I think
just
that
based on their roster resource, you just move Miguel Andujar to the bench. Brent Rooker plays left field, and you put Soderstrom, Kurtz, whoever at DH. I mean, it's possible without losing a whole lot.
Is it a good time to be an A's fan now?
Yes.
I mean, they
Well,
have a
no.
nice.
Here's the thing, no, but yes.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
roster-wise, yes, but in terms of that
everything else.
organization and decisions that have been made recently, no.
I mean, I feel good for the A's fans because they have a nice little nucleus now of some young stars and
Mm-hmm.
potential stars who are all going to be playing together now. I
Yeah.
mean, Wilson, Kurtz, Soderstrom's on it, all
Soderstrom, Langeliers, Butler.
Butler. Yeah, Rooks is he's a little bit older, right? But
Rooker's 30.
Rooker, yeah, but
You
he
still have
was
Zach
solid.
Geloff who could come back, and Zach Geloff and Max Muncy can trade off at second base. So you know which one works out. You have Mason Miller in your bullpen.
Oh yeah,
JT
there it
Ginn has
is.
actually looked really good.
I gotta plug in my charger
Some
here.
stuff is
Sorry.
starting to happen. So anyway, Nick Kurtz. I mean, add him if you can. Probably not an opportunity to. He's been pretty famous for a while now and has been off to an incredible start in AAA. So people have been probably spec adding him for a while now. If he's
Yes.
available, much like Keyshaw, run, don't walk to your free agency list, press the add
100%.
button, and figure out what to do. Now, the other side of this coin, the most divisive prospect that I have. I mean, seriously, like there's not. You talk to two people, you're going to get two very different answers about if you should add him, what his value is going to be, and that is Chandler Simpson with the Rays. Now there are arguments on both sides, Nate, and I'm going to lay out the arguments, and then I want to hear what side you are on.
All right, let's hear it.
If you are a Chandler Simpson truther, you're saying he has 80 speed. Okay, is the fastest man in baseball, and he hits the ball a lot. He has great hit tool. So he'll get the bat to the ball and he'll be able to get on base and wreak havoc and give you a ton of steals on base. He stole over 100 bases last year combined in triple or in the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that is something that he can bring to the plate. If you are against Chandler Simpson, if you are a Chandler Simpson falser, then you are saying that there is no power. So I've seen the argument that eventually pitchers will just throw him down the middle because he's not going to hurt you. And he's not going to be able to do much. He hits a lot of ground balls, which goes with his speed. But you're saying he's not going to be able to impact the baseball enough in order for things to matter, in order for his speed to matter on a fantasy world and from a fantasy standpoint. You're also saying he plays for the Rays. I've heard that argument a lot too. So what is that playing time going to look like overall? So
yeah,
that's kind of where you're at on either side. And I tried to sum up both arguments. I probably missed different points, but you either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, I think you laid it out correctly. The one thing I'll say, so I do like him. I like the potential just because it's such an elite skill.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a roto league, I think you try to add him no matter what because of
Jump
the
at him.
potential,
Mm-hmm.
impact on your steals category. I mean, he could be the winner. I mean, he could push you to win that category. He's that good. I think I saw this. It was on our YouTube channel. Someone left a comment that Chandler Simpson's comp is Juan Pierre. If you remember Juan Pierre from early to mid 2000s, pretty good player, a lot of speed, not much power. Let's see. He in his career hit 295, but had years of 65 steals, 68 steals, 58, 57. So I mean, you're looking at 50 to 60 steals. I think Chandler Simpson could go even higher if he gets full-time playing time. But like you said, that's another factor in the whole picture. I like him. I would add him just because of the elite speed. I think he's better than like a Victor Scott that we ran into, last year.
Ooh. Oh, last year, Victor Scott.
Yeah. I mean, where he
Okay,
was.
I thought it was about to be a spicy take.
No. Like, I mean, an elite, someone else with an elite skill of speed skill, but then he completely bombed out. Like, I don't think Chandler's going to do that. Is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I would add him if it was me. If you're asking my opinion, I would add him. But you raised very good points. So it's not a slam dunk. It's not Kurtz or some of these other people we've been talking about.
It's just, and again, it boggles my mind how different the opinions are on him. Usually, if a prospect gets called up, you have not a consensus, but you have people saying roughly the same things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, this is a good prospect. He'll be able to contribute here. Yeah. And the prospectors are, again, varying levels of the same page. When Chandler Simpson got called up, it kind of felt like everyone was reading a different book. Honestly, because I go to one chat and people are debating it. I go to another chat, people are debating it. You say one thing and everybody, that's really confusing, which is really awesome. I think it creates really good discourse. I am with you. I think the thing is, another argument that I'd heard is if you're going to roster Chandler Simpson, you have to plan to roster Chandler Simpson. Like, you need to have something to overcome the lack of power, all that stuff. I
Yeah,
don't think
that's a
I
good
don't
point.
think that's that hard to do, to be honest. I mean, you get an empty power guy and you've now complemented Chandler Simpson just fine. The thing is, it's just,
yes,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but what he is going to contribute, you can't find elsewhere, but you could find some empty home runs elsewhere.
And that's the point, right? If you're going hunting for steals, they are not anywhere. So if you have an opportunity to get Chandler Simpson cheap, and Roto for sure, but I think in almost any format, you just kind of have to go for it because he's going to steal bases. He's fast. That's it. He's going to steal bases.
There's no doubt.
And so if you're hurting for steals, he's somebody that you need on your team. And I think that's kind of where I stand now. I understand all the other arguments of pitchers are just going to throw it down the middle. He can't impact the baseball. The Rays may not give him playing time. He could turn into Billy Hamilton, as we've hinted at before as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that his speed is such an elite tool, and he's not flailing at the plate. He can make contact with the baseball, and he can, if he hits it on the ground, it is not a given that they're going to get him out. There is no such thing as a routine ground ball hit by Chandler Simpson. And I think that's important to note, especially when you look at his ground ball rates and they're so high. So Chandler Simpson's an interesting prospect. I think, again, if you need steals or if you just have a spot, I think Chandler Simpson's a good one to add if he's available. He probably isn't. He's another guy who's gotten a lot of press, a lot of media, but again, very, very interesting player and a very, very divided book of thought on Chandler Simpson coming into the league.
Yeah, no doubt. I was chatting with someone in one of my leagues trying to acquire Chandler Simpson.
Mm-hmm.
He had him, and we were working on some different packages back and forth, and he said, I just don't know how to value him, so I'm really, kind of confused on where to go with this. I did straight up offer him Trevor Story because I think Story is yeah, exactly. I think Simpson's probably better, but I thought the Story has some name recognition. He's playing well. He gets hurt all the time, but that's a good veteran straight up for someone who's, we haven't seen yet. I don't think he's going to accept the offer, but it's worth. I think it's worth sending a name like that, right?
If that offer is out there currently, if you listen to Coffee Talk, accept it.
Yeah.
Ignore what I just said about preferring Simpson to Story and just smash accept.
Accept that trade. But
Speaking of trades, oh, sorry,
it
go ahead,
will
Nate.
be. I would just say it will be interesting to see because even if he doesn't get the playing time, he could become like a clutch pinch runner even. Like over the course of a week, he could
Yes.
still have 3 to 4 steals or something like that.
Everything fantasy managers want to roster. Pinch runners. Love
I
it.
mean, he's that good. He has that good
Fast.
of a
He's that
skill is what
fast.
I'm saying. Yes, he's
Yes, it
that
does.
fast.
This is 80 elite speed. Absolutely. Speaking of trades, Nate, um, you traded Spencer Strider. And guess what?
I did.
We are going to talk about that, but we are going to talk about that next week. I just wanted to
What a
tease it. Make sure to
cliffhanger.
come back next week to hear what he traded Spencer Strider for. Although Strider just got hurt, if you didn't see that.
I did see that. We
Hurt his
need more
hamstring.
we need more time though. We've covered so many good names. Yes, let's chat about it next week.
Cliffhanger. Yes, so we're going to talk about Spencer Strider trade next week. Maybe I'll have a couple trades. I have a couple brewing. Hopefully they go through. I need pitching like nobody's business, and I cannot find it. Anyway, that's not what this podcast is about. So we will be back with more baseball next week. For Nate Kosher, my name is Trevor Hooth. We appreciate you guys listening. This has been episode 45 of Coffee Talk, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network.